Over the following months, their relationship deepened. They worked late together often, grabbing dinner from the deli downstairs, talking about everything from code architecture to their lives. Robert learned about Claire's childhood, her dreams of starting her own tech company someday. Claire learned about Robert's divorce 5 years earlier, his regret at letting work consume him. "You're different than I thought," Claire admitted one evening over Chinese takeout in the conference room. "When I was cleaning, I saw you as this intimidating, all-business CEO. But you're actually kind." "Don't let word get out," Robert said with mock seriousness. "It'll ruin my reputation." "Too late. I've already told everyone you're a softie." Robert felt something shift in that moment, looking across the table at her smiling face. This wasn't just mentor and student anymore. This wasn't just employer and employee. He cared about her in a way that went beyond professional respect. But he pushed the feeling down. She was 16 years younger than him. She was his employee. She'd come from a difficult situation, and the last thing she needed was her boss complicating her life with inappropriate feelings. The turning point came 6 months after Claire had started. Robert's company landed its biggest client yet, a major contract that could transform the business. But the timeline was aggressive, and they needed their best people on it. Robert called Claire into his office. "I want you on the Bennett project. Lead developer." Claire's eyes went wide. "Robert, I've only been here 6 months. There are people with years more experience who, none of them see code the way you do. None of them have your innovative approach. I need you on this. What if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it together. I believe in you, Claire. You need to start believing in yourself." The project was intense. Late nights turned into early mornings. Robert and Claire worked side by side, solving problems, pushing through obstacles. The rest of the team marveled at their synergy, how they seemed to think in parallel, anticipating each other's approaches. One night, at 2 a.m., they finally cracked the last major hurdle in the project. Claire let out a whoop of joy, and without thinking, Robert pulled her into a hug. For a moment, they stood there, and Robert felt her heart racing against his chest, or maybe that was his own heart. They pulled apart awkwardly. "Sorry," Robert said. "That was unprofessional." "It's okay," Claire said softly. But her eyes said more than that. They said she'd felt it too, that spark, that connection. Robert stepped back, putting professional distance between them. "It's late. We should both get some sleep." But as Claire gathered her things to leave, she turned back. "Robert, can I say something that might be completely inappropriate?" His heart hammered. "What is it?" "These past 6 months have been the best of my life. Not just because of the job, but because of you. The way you see me, believe in me, push me to be better. I know there's a professional line here, and I know all the reasons why crossing it would be complicated, but She took a breath. "I think I'm falling in love with you, and I needed you to know that, even if nothing can come of it." Robert stood frozen, his careful professional boundaries crumbling. "Claire, you're my employee. I'm 16 years older than you. People would say I took advantage. People aren't in this office at 2 a.m. watching us work. People don't see how you treat me, with respect, as an equal. You've never once made me feel like anything other than a valued colleague. This isn't about power or advantage. It's about two people who connect." "You could have any guy your own age," Robert said, echoing his own doubts. "I don't want any guy my own age. I want you, but only if you want this too." Claire met his eyes steadily. "If you don't, I'll never mention it again. We'll stay professional, but I needed to be honest." Robert thought about all the reasons he should say no. The age difference, the professional complications, the risk to both their reputations. But then he thought about how he felt when he saw her each morning. How her successes made him happier than his own. How she'd brought color back into his gray, work-focused life. "I'm falling in love with you too," he admitted quietly. "I have been for months. I just didn't think it was fair to you." "Let me decide what's fair to me," Claire said with a small smile. They started dating carefully, keeping it private at first, making sure the professional relationship remained solid. Robert worried constantly about perception, about whether people would think he'd promoted her inappropriately or that she'd seduced her way up. But Claire's work spoke for itself. The Bennett project was a massive success, earning praise from the client and industry recognition. Her code was elegant and efficient, her problem-solving innovative. No one could deny she'd earned her position. When they finally went public with their relationship a year later, there were some raised eyebrows, some whispered comments. But mostly, people saw what was obvious. Two people who brought out the best in each other, who'd built something genuine. Robert's friends from his divorce days, who'd watched him become increasingly isolated and work-obsessed, were amazed at the change in him. He laughed more, took actual vacations, talked about life beyond quarterly earnings. Claire, for her part, flourished in ways that went beyond her career. She'd always been brilliant, but now she was confident, assured, no longer the frightened young woman sneaking computer time while cleaning offices. 2 years after that morning when Robert had caught her at his computer, he proposed. Not in some grand gesture, but quietly, in the office after hours, in the same spot where she'd first shown him her code. "You changed my life that morning," Robert said, holding her hands. "You reminded me what passion looks like, what courage means. You made me want to be better, not just at work but as a person. Will you marry me?" Claire, tears streaming down her face, said yes. At their wedding, Robert's best man joked about the unusual way they'd met. Most couples meet at bars or through dating apps. These two met because Claire committed corporate espionage. Claire laughed and corrected him. "I prefer to call it unauthorized user access." But later, in a quieter moment, she told Robert, "That morning, I thought my life was over. I was sure I'd be arrested or at least fired. Instead, you saw past the trespass to the person. You gave me not just a second chance, but a real chance." "You earned everything you got," Robert said firmly. "I just opened a door. You walked through it and ran." "We both did," Claire said softly. "Together." And that was the truth. Two people from different worlds, different generations, brought together by lines of code and a willingness to see past circumstances to potential. They'd both been stuck, Robert in his work-obsessed isolation, Claire in survival mode, until that morning when anger had transformed into curiosity, and curiosity into something neither expected. Years later, when young developers asked Claire for career advice, she'd tell them about taking risks, about being bold, about not being afraid to show your abilities. But she'd also tell them about the importance of second chances, of people who see talent and nurture it, of building genuine connections in unexpected places. Because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs don't come from algorithms or innovations. They come from human moments, from someone's anger cooling into curiosity, from mentorship deepening into friendship, from respect growing into love. And sometimes, the best code we ever write is the life we build together, one line at a time. Robert Mitchell stood in the doorway of his corner office, briefcase in hand, staring at a sight he never expected to see. It was 6:30 in the morning, a full hour before anyone should have been in the building. And there sat his cleaning woman at his personal computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard with surprising speed. At 42, Robert had built Mitchell Tech Solutions from a one-room startup into a respected software development firm. He'd worked 70-hour weeks, sacrificed relationships, and guarded his work fiercely. And now someone was at his computer accessing God knew what. "What do you think you're doing?" His voice came out sharp, edged with anger and betrayal. The young woman jumped, her hands freezing over the keyboard. She spun around in his chair, her face going pale beneath her blonde ponytail. She wore the standard blue uniform of premium cleaning services, yellow rubber gloves still on her hands, a stack of cleaning cloths beside her on the desk. "Mr. Mitchell, I can explain," she stammered, standing up quickly and backing away from the computer. "You'd better." Robert strode into the office, his mind racing through everything stored on that machine. Client contracts, proprietary code, financial records. "How did you even get past my password?" The woman, he thought her name was Claire, or maybe Clara, looked down at her gloved hands. "I figured it out. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have, but I just needed—" "You figured it out?" Robert's anger intensified. His password was complex, 16 characters of random letters and numbers. "Did you steal it somehow? Write it down when I wasn't looking?" "No, She took a breath, meeting his eyes. I watched your hand movements 3 times when you logged in while I was cleaning. The angle and duration of each keystroke, the pattern. It took me about 20 minutes to work out the algorithm, but... Algorithm? Robert stopped, his anger faltering slightly. What are you talking about? Claire, it was definitely Claire, he remembered now, gestured helplessly toward the computer. Your password generation pattern. Most people use some variant of substitution or personal significance. Yours appeared random, but the keystroke timing suggested a mathematical sequence. I hypothesized it might be based on prime number positioning or Fibonacci variants, and after testing a few iterations... Stop. Robert held up his hand, his mind reeling. This was his cleaning woman. She was supposed to vacuum and empty trash cans, not reverse engineer security protocols. What exactly were you doing on my computer? Claire's face flushed, but she lifted her chin slightly. I was working on code. I have an idea for an algorithm that could improve data compression rates by nearly 40%. But I don't have a computer at home, and the library's computers don't have the development environment I need. So I thought, show me. The words came out before Robert fully processed them. His anger was still there, but now it was tangled with curiosity. Show me what you were working on. Claire hesitated, then slowly sat back down at the computer, pulling up the screen she'd been working on. Lines of code filled the display, elegant and complex. Robert leaned over her shoulder, scanning the logic. His anger began to dissolve, replaced by something else entirely. Astonishment, maybe even awe. This is... He scrolled through the code, his experienced eye recognizing sophisticated problem-solving, innovative approaches to compression theory he'd seen only in academic papers. Where did you learn to code like this? Mostly self-taught, Claire said quietly, her voice steadier now. Some online courses. I did 2 years at NYU in computer science before I had to drop out. Why did you drop out? Claire was quiet for a moment. My mother got sick, cancer. I was her only family, and someone had to take care of her, pay the medical bills. Cleaning pays better than food service, and the hours are flexible so I could be with her during the day. The simple, matter-of-fact way she said it hit Robert harder than expected. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it. Is she... She passed 8 months ago. Claire's voice was soft. I kept the cleaning job because I needed to save money before I could go back to school. But I've been trying to keep my skills sharp, work on projects when I can. I know what I did was wrong. I'll leave now. And I understand if you want to report me to the agency. Robert straightened up. Looking at this young woman, he guessed she was in her mid-20s, who'd been cleaning his office 5 nights a week for the past 6 months. He'd barely noticed her, never spoken more than a polite greeting. He'd had no idea she was this brilliant. How old are you, Claire? 26. And you taught yourself to code at this level? She nodded. I've always been good with puzzles, patterns. Programming is just another kind of problem-solving. Robert made a decision that surprised even himself. I'm not going to report you, but we need to talk about this properly. Can you come back this afternoon? Around 3? Claire's eyes widened. Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. And Claire, don't use my computer again without permission, but bring your work with you. I want to see more. That afternoon, in the same office, but with Claire sitting properly across from his desk, rather than behind it, Robert listened to her explain her compression algorithm in detail. She'd brought a thumb drive with her portfolio of work, projects she'd completed for those online courses, personal experiments, innovations she'd developed while riding the subway or waiting in hospital rooms. It was impressive. More than impressive. It was the kind of raw talent most of his employees, with their expensive degrees and years of experience, would never possess. I want to offer you a job, Robert said when she finished her presentation. A real job. As a junior developer? Claire's face lit up with hope, then quickly clouded. Mr. Mitchell, I appreciate that, but I don't have a degree. I don't even have a certification. You have something better. You have ability and drive. The rest we can work with. Robert leaned forward. I'm serious, Claire. I've been in this business for 20 years, and I recognize talent when I see it. You shouldn't be cleaning offices. You should be writing code. But Claire's voice caught. I don't know what to say. Say yes. The salary will be modest to start, but it's a lot more than cleaning work pays. And if you're as good as I think you are, you'll move up quickly. Over the next weeks, Claire proved Robert's instincts right. She absorbed information like a sponge, asked intelligent questions, and produced code that was clean, efficient, and innovative. The other developers, initially skeptical of the former cleaning woman, quickly came to respect her skills. Robert found himself mentoring her, spending time reviewing her work, explaining the business side of software development. He enjoyed it more than he'd expected. There was something refreshing about her perspective, her hunger to learn, her gratitude for the opportunity. But more than that, he found himself noticing things about her. The way she bit her lip when concentrating, the quiet pride in her eyes when she solved a difficult problem, the kindness she showed to everyone, even the actual cleaning staff, never forgetting where she'd come from. One evening, 3 months after she'd started, Robert found Claire still at her desk at 8 p.m., working on a particularly challenging client project. "You should go home," he said gently. "Get some rest." Claire looked up, startled. "I wanted to finish this. I think I'm close to solving the memory leak issue. It can wait until tomorrow. Can I ask you something?" Claire saved her work and turned to face him. "Why did you give me this chance? You could have just fired me, reported me. I violated your trust." Robert considered the question. "Honestly, at first I was just curious about the code. But then I saw how you talked about it. The way your whole face lit up. I saw someone who loved this work, who had real talent, and who just needed a chance." He paused. "Plus, you remind me of myself, 20 years ago, hungry, determined, willing to take risks." "I'm grateful every single day," Claire said softly. "This job changed my life." "You changed your own life," Robert corrected. "You had the courage to take that risk, using my computer. Stupid risk, mind you, but courage nonetheless." Claire laughed, and the sound did something strange to Robert's chest. He found himself smiling back, really smiling, in a way he hadn't in years.